Hello and welcome back to the Wine Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Heather Danitz, and today I'm joined by my friend, Erin Kirschenmann. Erin is the managing editor for Wine Business Monthly and has been with the company since 2012. In addition to production responsibilities, she writes about business, technology, sales, and marketing, and also oversees content and programming for Wine Business Monthly's various symposia. She speaks on wine industry trends at numerous conferences and guest lectures on wine media and public relations. And in 2022, she joined the Napa Valley Wine Academy as a WSET instructor and has served as a judge in the International Concours Mondial de Bruxelles, the wine competition, since 2016, and at several regional competitions. In 2025, Erin was named to Beverage Dynamics 40 Under 40 list. And this year, she launched Novel Pairings, which is an online membership designed to bring women together to discuss books, wine, and life with a variety of gatherings that deliver a fun and no pressure community. Hi, Erin.
Hi, Heather.
Thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
I'm glad to be talking about this one too, because this topic hits so many of my, the things that I love. It hits all the areas of the industry that I love.
Yeah. So one of the things that spurred this particular conversation today, was a San Francisco Chronicle article written by Jess Lander called "Does Smut Sell? This California winery hopes so." So in it, Jess talks about a romantasy novella that was written with the intent to help sell this particular wine, Isabella Gold. And I sent you an email because you are one of my wine / book talk / romantasy type friends who I can gush about these things and talk about these things. And I knew you would have some thoughts. And so, so I forwarded you the article so we could discuss. And then it quickly became apparent that we needed to bring this topic to the podcast because it's, we touch on winery collaborations and things like that. And I just think it's a really important topic. So I do want to talk specifically to start out about this particular novella that was written. And I feel like we could really go into it and really get deep into get a lot very hot and bothered about it. What did you find frustrating or interesting about how this particular collaboration was executed?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to kind of backtrack for a second. I have been a reader my entire life. I have been a anti-romance reader for a very long time, up until about 2020. I was the girl who made fun of the Nicholas Sparks novels and the movies that came from it. I'm like, oh, that can't be very literary, right? This is just awful. And then in 2020, COVID hit. I was going through a divorce and I was trying to set some goals of things that I could do. And I said, you know what? I'm going to give the romance genre a try because I've gotten tired of fantasy and historical fiction. So I tried romance. And I read 152 books that year, mostly romance. And what I realized was that this genre has changed phenomenally over the years. And it is very much woman-focused, female gaze. Consent is a huge thing, even in the historical fiction romances. And it's not just smut. There is story, there is plot. Yes, there are tropes, but you have characters and plot building. And it is such a fascinating and beautiful genre. Now I've started into romantasy. I want to shout out Emilia. Thank you very much for starting me down this wild path. And you see a lot of those same tropes and developments that have happened in the romance genre come and meet fantasy. And I've had so many conversations with friends, with other women on Book Talk, on Bookstagram, in forums, on Discord, about this genre and what works for them. So that's part of the reason why I started Novel Pairings, was because I've met these women and they love to sit down and read their romantasy with a glass of wine. And they want the wine to match what they're reading. Or definitely I do. We're still working on the wine part, but they want to feel a vibe with the book they're reading. So when I saw this article, I'm like, yes, great. The wine industry has recognized readers. They are the core of who we are trying to reach, right? Millennial women, 30s and 40s, who are really interested in deep storytelling. This is perfect. And then I started to read this article. And I know this has been a really long way of saying, but from reading the quotes from the novella. This is everything that romantasy readers hate. This is everything that we have rebelled against the last 5-10 years. This is everything that screams male gaze and somebody who does not understand the romantasy reader. And I hate saying that and being so forthcoming with it, but I sent this article to friends and they were not happy. They were asking questions like, who even is this guy? Talking about her feet as small and beautiful. Quotes like, the urge to end her virginity was overwhelming, was just infantilizing and womanizing and eek. Like this was the worst possible way you could go in to try to reach romantasy readers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I sent it to you before I had gotten halfway through the article, so I hadn't fully read it. And once before I sent it to you, and then I sent it to you, and then I started reading the rest of the article, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel like we're gonna have some thoughts. We're gonna have some conversation, because I agree. Yeah, this is very much they just felt very pandering to what they think that we want and not necessarily what we actually want. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, they think we want smut when really we want a relationship that's building up, that there's tension. And yes, the smut is fun, but there is a whole group of non-spicy romance readers.
Yeah.
And it's not a small piece of it either. I mean, I would say almost 40% of romance readers don't want a ton of spice.
Mm-hmm.
So we want the story, we want the chemistry, we want the connection between the main couple.
Yeah.
And that's what I think got lost here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about Reddit. And one of the things that I like to do when I start a new book is I like to kind of find out where the spice, if they exist, I like to find out kind of where the spicy chapters are. And a lot of folks, it's not necessarily because I want to skip them. I just kind of be prepared, I guess, going into it. And, but a lot of folks they ask this question on Reddit because they want to know where they can skip.
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't want to see the on-page sex happen. And some people do, some people search this because they're well, I want to know, I want to, get excited about this, and that's great. And so but with all of these, everybody that I've talked to that I know that does read the spicy stuff, they want to, as you said, they want to have the relationship. This is, you and I have had this conversation on the other podcast that I was running with my friend Kristen about novel pairings, but we talked a little bit about how, there's this argument that spicy romantasy books are porn, and you and I both agree that it's not, because there's plot and story and consent and all these, really it's not the sex isn't gratuitous. It's it's there to deepen a relationship, and and it's fun, and we like it. But it's it's not, anyways, but that's a whole other topic. If you guys want to
3 hours on that,
we could do 3 hours. Exactly. Yeah, if you guys want to listen to that, I'll link that episode of poor oh my gosh, poor yes. I will link that episode of that podcast in the show notes so that you guys can revisit it, because it's a really fun conversation, and it's less about marketing and wine business and more about the conversations, and you can learn a little bit more about novel pairings. We talked a little bit about how poor memories and novel pairings were. I kept tripping over them in our previous conversation because they're both punny names.
Yep.
Oh dear. Okay. So you told me kind of what you found frustrating. Was there anything interesting or that you were intrigued by that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was intrigued by the fact that the wine was made for the book and that the label matched the story. And I do think that there is a great opportunity there if it's done correctly, right? This read like marketing ploy, but there's so much overlap between wine and books, in the storytelling, in the way we describe it, in the way that we kind of have similar tropes within wine, right? Each Cabernet has its own tropes, let's be real. Chardonnay, definitely. I see good overlap. I see the reader being somebody who is interested in wine and wanting to learn more about wine, or just having the right glass to go with what they're reading. So, honestly, that was the most intriguing part to me. It's like, okay, somebody thought outside of the box and thought about a collaboration where wine maybe wasn't necessarily the hero. Execution, terrible. Idea, good.
Mm-hmm. What do you think could have made it better then? Like, what could have made that concept like land a little bit better among you and then actual, actual romance readers and consumers in general?
So many things. I think it would have been better if he had partnered with an actual romantasy writer.
Mm-hmm.
He was the co-writer on this. And yes, he did pair up with a novelist. We don't know who the novelist is. It's not readily apparent. And it very much comes from the male gaze. Where I would have loved to see him partner up with Sarah J. Maas. That would have cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But find a fantasy or romantasy writer who is into wine.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Harkness was a wine writer before she wrote the All Souls trilogy. And there's like a hint of spice in there. It's not true romantasy, but there is a romance plot line. There is a fantasy plot line. She would have been perfect for this. Partner up with somebody who understands the genre. Or instead, if you yourself are not interested in romantasy, don't do the collaboration. Don't this. Like if you are a golfer and action movie fan, maybe that's a better collaboration for you than romantasy, because it honestly read like he had never read one of these books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, like from the start, he should have gone to a known romantasy writer.
Yeah, I agree. There's this, so in one of the Outlander books, it's the third, I believe, called Voyager. The main character, Claire, have you read these books? I can't remember. I feel like we've had this conversation.
I have read all but the most recent.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So in Voyager, she talks about how she being the main character, Claire, she talks about how she found these like romance novels, like The Impetuous Pirate, when she's studying, or she's like a resident at a hospital. And so she's like thumbing through one, and she kind of like starts reading and gets intrigued. And there's a line in it that's like, he teased aside the like essence of her virginity or something. And she like laughs and drops the book. And it's like this whole thing. And it's so funny. And I feel like from the quotes, again, I haven't read this novella, so I don't really know what's going on in it. But from the quotes mentioned in the article, it feels very much like that. Like it feels like you're like, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even do them like women? Like, yeah.
No.
Oh, you did?
No. I started to, and I could not get through it. Because it was so infuriating.
Yeah.
And I admit I went in a little biased based on the article and like the back cover, the summary description of it.
Yeah.
Neither of those did any favors for the romantasy reader. But I said, you know what? We're going to talk about this. I can't talk about it and not have read the novella.
Yeah.
And Heather, I tried. Just so I said I sent this article to some friends and to some romantasy readers, some people who I just know from Instagram. I just sent the novella to them. And they all had the same comment. Could not get through this. And I worry that gives wine a bad name, because now it's associated with it. They're in, a vineyard. She's going through a harvest. Isabella is stomping grapes. It's scary because we've come so far in the romance genre. Even in historical fiction, I read, forgive my love of puns here. There's a series called The Wicked Highlanders, and one of them is called Scott Under the Covers. And it's getting Scott in here. They are brutish Highlanders, and they're still asking for consent, and they're still making sure that the woman, because it's historical fiction, it's usually her first time, they're still making sure that she's comfortable even as they're ripping off her bodice. Mm-hmm. And so to see that in a novel, to see what a healthy relationship looks like, I don't want to backtrack.
Agreed.
Maybe that's a little harsh. I am being a little harsh, but this is something that is near and dear to my heart. This combines the two things I love, reading and wine. Yeah. And I want it to work.
Yeah, like you said, I think the concept for this collaboration was there, and it was a good one. But the execution maybe just wasn't it. And I think that there's with anything, any new like concept that comes into the world, there's always room for improvement. So so hopefully maybe we can iterate on this, and maybe hopefully he's getting that feedback and is like, okay, well, like if I do this again, or if we decide to like make a sequel to this, then maybe I do partner with a novelist and a romantasy writer and actually do a little bit better justice to this genre. Or maybe he
Yeah.
recognizes that this isn't his strength, and he does go to the, the opposite side if he's into golf and things like that, then, or sports casting, or like, whatever, or hockey, then maybe he can like do something with that. Maybe there's some other angle that he can approach with this kind of wine collaboration.
I was just going to say that, like that's the heart of a good collaboration. If you are passionate about something, you are going to be able to execute correctly. People reading or viewing or whatever it is, they're going to be able to see that too. And especially with newer generations, we talk about authenticity all the time. We have talked about it in the wine industry for years. And I don't think we've ever really fully defined it or understood it, but this next generation can see when something is a ploy or if something is just pandering. They can see that if you're talking about sustainability in the land, they can tell whether you really mean it or not. And so as we're moving into new ways of marketing wine and new ways of talking about it, we have to make sure that our passions align up with what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. I was just having this conversation yesterday about how like it's so much easier to do things when you're nerdy and passionate about it. And if you aren't passionate and nerdy about it, but you feel like you're doing it just because you have to, or because you think that like maybe it's a good idea, then it's going to fall flat. And I think that's exactly what's happening in this situation.
Yeah, quality and execution lack when you don't have the motivation. And Lord, I've felt that we have all felt that in our day-to-day jobs, right? We've all had burnout moments, and you can see the quality of your work. You can see that the execution wasn't there. You can see the sales weren't there. So, I mean, collaborations are becoming a really big topic. And so I just keep reminding everybody, go with what you're passionate with. It doesn't have to be the same old staid stuff that we expect for wine. Like a wine and food partnership, we all know that it's been done. But if you're really into golf, or you're really into cars or fashion, or pick your poison, mushrooming, I don't know.
Yeah.
Foraging. Sorry, I like completely forgot the word for that one. If you're a scary movie buff, like Justin Trabue, those are the collaborations that land.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I'm thinking specifically, like you said, scary movies or horror flicks. I'm thinking specifically of Final Girl. Like their entire brand is built on this concept of the final girl who's like the last woman left alive at the end of these horror flicks, the last woman standing who's gone through the eye of the storm and has come out the other side this like completely different character and strong and all this. And so and that you can tell that that's like a really like their tasting room is like a little campy, like a little kitschy, but people love it. They go in there and they're like, this is it. Like I've found my people, because there are people out there. Like I'm personally not one of them. I have really vivid dreams. And so I cannot watch scary movies because I will dream about them and it just becomes too real for me. But like, yeah, Justin Trabue, Peter and Anna Clifford from Final Girl, like they've created this a really lovely community because of this sort of like really niche down thing. And then, and of course like metal and wine. So Blood of Gods with Stacey Buchanan. Yeah. Also a really like taking these two things that you're super passionate about and putting them together, you're gonna find your people. And that's and I think that really leads really perfectly into this sort of broader conversation that I really wanted to have with you about winery collaboration. So like, what makes a collaboration actually work? And you started touching on this, and something that you mentioned in our email thread when we were talking about this novella was that authentic collaborations are often overlooked but can be powerful when they are done right. So like let's dive into like what makes a brand collab authentic. We kind of touched on it a little bit about like do the things that you're passionate about. But what else? Is there anything that you want to expand on with that?
Yeah, so obviously the passion thing works. I think the biggest reason that a wine to non-wine collaboration work, the next thing that will make it work well, is that you have to realize that wine is not going to be the center of attention. It is going to be ancillary to whatever it is they're doing. I know as a brand, as somebody who's investing money and time, that is something really difficult to swallow. But if you want to reach non-wine drinkers, going full force at them and telling the same story, oh, we have this kind of soil and this clone and it's barrel aged for this many months, you've lost them. You have to find a way to make wine ancillary, exciting, but part of their regular hobby. And so a couple good ways that I've seen this done, and I'm going to cite some big brand examples simply because they have done this in the past and they have established it that it works. So O'Neill Vintners. Jeff O'Neill is a big car enthusiast. He has a lot of very old vintage cars. He created Velocity Invitational. Wine is ancillary. There is a secondary area where you can go and drink some wine and watch the cars. You can go into different parts of the paddock and try different wines. It is set in wine country, and they have wine country drives leading up to the main event where people who, as a car girl myself, people love to go driving through pretty areas.
Yes.
What better than a vineyard? Right. So that was a really strong collaboration because they partnered with a lot of the local racing teams, with a lot of they've had a Formula One car there before. What a great way to expose car people to wine. It's just there. It's like, hey, yeah, you can have some wine while you're doing this, while you're watching cars. Let me rephrase that. While you're watching cars, please, not while you're driving. You can go driving through the vineyard. And I have maintained for years that car people are wine people because who knows vintage better than car people? Those cars change every dang year. Another great collaboration, Silver Oak partnered up with a fashion house to do a wine-colored dress. They actually analyzed their wine, the pigmentation of it, and translated that to high fashion and walked the runways in Milan.
Cool.
Really cool, right? Now we're getting fashion people interested in wine and the differentiation in color. Antinori partnered with, and please excuse me if I believe it was Ferrari, might have been Lamborghini, was one of the Italian car brands, to develop a very specific wine-colored car that they drove around for Premier Napa Valley and took around to all these other areas. The wine wasn't the high point here. It was the new car. It was a very interesting dress. It was a car show. And I love that they just were like, you know what, we're just going to embrace this culture. And we're just going to say, here's the color of our wine. Yeah, we'll bring some wine and let everybody taste it. But like, the star of the show is not the wine itself. And so I see that as a bridge to getting people in those hobbies, in those industries, interested in the wine business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's
a hard pill to swallow, though. I'm so sorry.
No, and I think you're right, though.
Yeah. And like, you don't have to spend a ton of money doing this, right? If you find that your core demographic, or at least the majority of your demographic, is interested in a grandma hobby. And I love that grandma hobbies are back. I'm so excited. Yeah. You and I had a discussion about cross-stitching that just made me so happy. Find a local knitting shop and host a wine and knitting night. Find there are knitting influencers, I tell you. Go find them and work with them. Maybe it's a special label just for them. Or maybe you do a special colored yarn that's wine colored. You have a Chardonnay and a Cabernet and a Pinot, right? Find something that appeals to them. And just say, you know what, we're going to support it. We're not going to try to be the star. It doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah. I feel like the knitting thing could be a really sort of like easy, like low-hanging fruit kind of collaboration too, because there's so many wineries, vineyards that are running sheep in their vineyards in the winter and the early spring. And I'm like, you know, those sheep are going to get shorn at some point. So like, why not? Like, it's, you know, why, like, I know, wine dyed wool from the sheep that were actually grazing the vineyard where the grapes came from that is making the wine.
Yeah.
There's so many angles here that you could really play with. And I think that, you know, I wrote this whole article on Substack called Grandma Hobbies, the Return of Grandma Hobbies, which I'll link in the show notes. They're like the knitting and crocheting communities, the cross stitch communities, they are so tightly knit and they're so fucking passionate. And
Mhm.
we want that passion in the wine industry. Like that's just, it's such an easy transition. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like they call them like stitch and bitch sessions. Um, and
That's
so
great.
yeah, like I have like a local yarn shop here, Orchid Yarnery. They do sip and stitch like evenings. They do it like once a month, and like you like come to whatever place that they're hosting it at. Sometimes it'll be at a brewery, sometimes it'll be at a wine bar, and you'll just like order a glass of whatever if you know imbibe, and you bring your whatever project you're working on, and you just like sit and like talk to each other and drink wine or drink beer and just have a great time. And like, you got to do something while you're knitting. Like you can't, like you always have to have some kind of beverage with you. And you know, if that's tea or wine or beer or whatever, like why not make it wine? So yeah.
You know, you've kind of hit the nail on the head here. It's community. Collaborations and these new hobbies are all about community because we've heard about the loneliness epidemic. We've heard that people are itching to get out from behind a screen. You take all of these hobbies, reading, knitting, cars, this, that, sports, right? We all want to get up from our couches, stop watching things on TV or on the computer, and then go out and talk to people. Really good collaborations bring communities together and build stronger ones. I really want to go to a stitch and bitch session.
Yeah.
That sounds
It's so
amazing.
fun. Yeah. I first read about Stitch and Bitch sessions in Animal Vegetable Miracle by Barbara Kingsolver, which is
Mm.
also, by the way, she's an amazing author, period, but this is one of her best nonfiction books. It's basically follows her family's journey of growing as much food as they can on their own property in Appalachia. And then also like whatever food that they couldn't grow themselves, they tried to source within 100 miles of themselves. And so it was like, yeah, basically like hyper local. And they lived like that for an entire year. And it was just an experiment to see like, one, could they do it? And so the whole book sort of like talks about food culture and like, you know, they talk about cheese. And I think that this particular, like the Stitch and Bitch was about quilting perhaps. And yeah. And so she talks about like, just like all of these really like handmade things that you can get, and like the power of buying local and supporting local and having these really amazing communities. And it was just a really amazing book. Should you guys want to get into it.
I have a lot on my TBR, as you can see, but I will get there eventually.
Oh my gosh. I read it every year. So if you are an audio book listener, Barbara Kingsolver narrates it herself, which I love when authors do that. So because you know they know the tone that they're after when they wrote this book. And she's also just like a really lovely narrator. Like she has a really comforting voice, and she's really funny. And yeah, so it's a really, yeah, I listen to it every spring to get me hyped for the coming growing season, my garden. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about collaborations, like gardeners are the perfect collaboration, you know, the perfect amalgamation of like gardening and wine, because like gardeners understand seasons in a way that like maybe most other wine consumers don't. And wine is a really like it's an agricultural product. And I think we often forget that because we get so like lost in like the culture and the romance of wine that we forget that this is a thing that is of the earth. And so yeah.
We forget that it's a thing of the earth, and that is great for luxury brands. But I also kind of want to point out that sometimes wine is just wine.
Yeah.
And I like one collaboration that did really well. Fior de Sol partnered up with NBC Universal to launch a 50th anniversary Jaws wine. And I almost kind of want to pause because I have a bottle of it at home, but it is a light blue sparkling wine with the picture of Bruce the shark in the back. And then at the fill line, it's the woman swimming. It's just beautifully done. It was almost cult status. You could not find it anywhere. A World Market in Napa had it for 2 days before it was sold out.
Wow.
So sometimes wine is just wine, and you have to know which one yours is. If you're going to be launching something that's brand new, that's specifically targeted at a demographic, a non-wine demographic, sometimes you just have to remember wine's wine to them. Don't get tripped up in the terroir. If you want to reach gardeners, oh God, yes, please get into the terroir, get into the agricultural side of it. They understand that. You have to remember your messaging when you go out and do these.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like all of my conversations always come back to know your audience. Like that's just the bottom line is like you need to know who you're selling this wine to and who you want drinking your wine, because that's going to make everything you do easier. Like any collaborations that you are, thinking about, and any any marketing that you do, as long as you know who you are talking to, it's just going to be the easiest thing in the world, because they're going to tell you what they want. Yeah.
And you actually have to listen when they tell you.
And you have to listen. Yeah, exactly. You have to listen. So you're gonna be moderating a panel at the 2026 DTC Symposium, which is happening in January in Monterey. Everybody, go get your tickets if you haven't already. And so that's the panel that you're moderating is called "The Power of Collaboration." Which is really exciting that we're kind of getting this sort of like teaser of what you're going to be talking about. What can attendees expect from that conversation?
So with this session, we are going to be talking more about winery to winery collaboration and winery to tourism collaboration, which is a whole different side of it. So like today, we've mostly been talking about wine to non-wine. I have an absolutely fantastic panel, and they have each collaborated in new and different ways. Boleto Vineyards is partnering with other wineries in the area to offer wine club discounts to their members and vice versa. So for 3 months, another winery's club members get access to Boleto's wines. They get to come in, have free tastings, have the wine club member experience, get the wine club member discount. And they partner up with a new winery 4 times a year. And I think that's a really no-brainer. Like, why haven't we done this before?
Yeah, it's so smart.
It's so brilliant. While I don't have a rep from Ashes and Diamonds on the panel, I've really admired their wine club because they collaborate with local hotels and spas to give their wine club members discounts. And that's a really great way to build local membership. Because how often, like you and I probably don't join a ton of wine clubs because we can go anytime and just do the tasting, go pick up a couple bottles, right? There's no real benefit for us other than maybe the discount. But like we're industry. We don't really need that. In areas like Napa and Sonoma, where a lot of the people are already in industry and already have access to this, getting discounts to the Meritage's pool during the summer, that's a reason for them to join a wine club. So like that's a really smart collaboration. Winery 16600 is part of this program called GEMS, and it's 12 wineries, and they all share data and share information to help build their DTC programs and their wine clubs and build out experiences for members. And so what I really love about this session is we're talking about the trade side of collaboration, is building a stronger trade to build a stronger wine club or wine loving group.
Yeah, that's exactly, you're speaking to exactly why I joined the wine industry in the first place. Like I started, you guys probably heard the story before, but I started out wanting to be a photojournalist. And so I, did photography classes with the intention of like kind of going into art school and all that. And I found that, like being a photographer in the Los Angeles County area, it's not for the weak at all. Like you really have to have like thick skin. And I did not have thick skin when I first started that. And I was very sensitive. And I found that I didn't like the lack of collaboration that was happening within, like I felt like the feedback wasn't constructive. I felt like it was cruel and like gratuitous. And it just wasn't helpful to me. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go try and find like an industry that is actually collaborative. And the wine industry is it. Like we share, yes, of course, there's some competition and whatever between wineries, but like when these communities are so tightly knit and they share, like I remember my very first vintage working for Foxen Winery, as a harvest intern, they lent me to a couple of the neighboring wineries because they were like, they need help with bottling, and so they're like, go help them with bottling because they need a couple of like extra hands. And so like I went and helped with bottling, and it was just like the collaboration, the like kindness of this community that, there's that saying that like was a rising tide lifts all boats. And like, that is to me sort of like the beauty of the wine industry is that we are so collaborative. And I think you're speaking to that with this particular panel that you'll be speaking on.
Yeah. And it's so easy when times are good to back away from collaboration because you're you're making your revenue goals, you're making payroll, everything's moving smoothly, right? You don't need to focus on that. But when we are at a critical pivot point, like we are in the wine industry now, the only way we are going to be able to get through all of this is by talking, is by working together. And so sharing data, sharing stories, sharing solutions, honestly, and then working with others, whether that's your neighbor, whether that's your ABA association, whether that's somebody like Stryker Reese who's doing anime and wine nights out in Washington, D.C., or somebody up in Seattle doing a knitting club. That's the only way we are going to get out of this.
Yeah, agreed.
I
Totally
sound really
agree.
preachy today. Sorry.
No, I mean, like, I think like we all need to hear it, and it's important. We got to do it.
I'm like, I'm going to fully admit that's part of the reason why I started Novel Pairings. I had this idea back in 2020 and never executed on it because I was scared. And then I saw, because of my job with Wine Business Monthly, how much we needed something like that. So I said, I need to stop telling people to do it and just do it myself. So that's how Novel Pairings started. And so I just want to keep like banging on the door and saying, hey, like, go talk to your neighbor, please. We're going to do a little audience participation in our panel at DTC Wine Symposium.
Right.
So that way they have to go down this path and they have to start working on collaborations.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love audience participation. Like one of my favorites. Give me a microphone. I'm ready.
If you are in the audience, I'll be calling on you.
I think I have it. Hang on. I'm going to pull up my calendar, my tentative calendar of like, which I'm pretty sure I listed that I'm going to go to yours.
Okay. I promise to make it worthwhile.
Yes. Because yours is on Thursday, right?
Yes.
The power
first thing in the morning.
Yes, I will be going to yours. It's on my calendar, so it's official. I'm so excited. Okay, so you also touched on this as well. So like I feel like you're like going through all my questions that I've already written down. I love it. It's great. That's exactly why we do this. But can we talk a little bit more about like other like collaborations across the hospitality genres, if you will? So like the, restaurants, hotels, tasting rooms, all of that. Can we talk about like why they're so underrated as a DTC marketing strategy?
Oh my God. Word of mouth, plain and simple. If you treat the trade well, the trade will treat you well back.
Yes.
If a server at a restaurant that carries your wine had a great time at your winery in your tasting room, their guests are going to say, where should we go in the area? And your winery is going to be the first one that they mention.
Yes.
I work, and I don't want you to forget media either, and not in a like prepared media visit kind of way. Treat them like you would a regular person. Don't pander to them. Don't overdo it for them, because I can see right through that. My friends in journalism can see right through that. And when it comes time for them to write a column or do an article, or a friend of theirs says, hey, I'm going to be in your area. What should I go do? You want to be that winery that they recommend because they were treated like a regular human being. And so it's the same for sommeliers. It's the same for front desk clerks, for hotel maids. Don't ever discount them. Do you know how many bottles of wine get left in hotel rooms because we can't pack them when we're flying?
Yeah.
They know their wines. And they're telling their friends. And it's those little pieces that, if you treat the trade well and you treat all parts of the trade well, that the growth will be exponential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a conversation with a hotel mate. Believe me, you will learn some things. You will learn where people are visiting from. You will learn what they like, what they don't like, what they choose to get rid of, because they see the bottles of wine pop up in the hotel room as the days go on, and they know which ones get left behind. It's really fascinating to look into the wine industry.
Yeah, that, I never even thought about that. Like which wines people are being like, I could leave this. I don't need to bring this with me. That's really enlightening. I mean, again, before we hopped on this call, we were talking about Reddit, and like one of the things I love about Reddit and why I get so sucked into it, is I feel like it's the people there are very honest, but in a way that's like they're just candid. Like they're not leaving a review. Like, they're literally just like, somebody asks like, oh, what winery should I visit in like Santa Barbara County and Napa or whatever. And people are so honest about like, hey, these were my favorites. And then like if somebody recommends a winery, then like there'll be like a bunch of comments underneath that'll be like, oh, actually, or like I second this, like this is a really great winery, or like actually like I had a really bad experience at this particular winery and here's what that experience was like. And so you really can learn a lot about what people are actually thinking about you by looking at Reddit. And so I didn't even think that like about like talking to the maids and like figuring out like what wines are being left behind. That could be really, really enlightening for people is like, oh, is my wine worth packing and like sticking in a suitcase and like having that extra weight and potentially paying for like luggage, if I like checked luggage, if I typically do a carry-on. So that's such a thought. Cause like I definitely, when I was traveling to UK, I like went out and bought a wine suitcase and I could only fit 8 bottles and I think I had like 10. And so, and I couldn't drink the 2 bottles in that last night. And so like I had to really make a decision about what wine I was leaving behind. And yeah, and I made a choice. So that's, yeah. Oh God, that's so interesting. Okay.
I mean, do the same thing with the concierge. Do it with servers. Do it with people at other tasting rooms. Because you know that if somebody has had a bad experience, they're going to be bitching about it as loud as they can when they go to the next winery. We are trained as, tasting room professionals to ask, oh, where have you been? What do you like? Things like that. People are really honest. And if you make friends with those tasting room professionals, they're going to tell you when something went wrong. And it's even if something goes wrong once, you do need to address it. You need to stop it from becoming a problem because you don't want any more people spreading negativity about your tasting room. So make friends with others. Just talk to them and say, you know what, I'll tell you, here are all the good things people have said about your winery. Here are all the bad. Please do the same thing for me. It's so easy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. I mean, so since I'm a photographer and social media marketer, I'm in tasting rooms taking photos of them. And they're often like real guests there that are having like an experience. And they see this person with this like giant camera walking around and they're like, what's your story? And so then I'll go and like chat with them and shoot the shit with them. And I'll be like, oh, where are you visiting from? And I do all the questions. And that's also have been really enlightening for me because they're like, oh, so like you photograph like wineries, like all the wineries in the area. That's so cool. Where should we go next? And so like I'll make my recommendations. And that's been really interesting because I've had some people be like, oh, we weren't going to go to that particular winery because like some person at X tasting room said it was too corporate. And I was like, oh, interesting that's a thing that's like being said about this particular winery. That's, because like that's not the way that I would describe them. So, and it's, yeah. I think one of the other things that is like a really great idea is if you go as a tasting room person, or, like a winery person, if you are going to taste at other wineries, I highly recommend doing like a secret shopping kind of day where you go like to a region that you aren't maybe known very well. And you like, don't tell people that you work in the industry, like make up a story about yourself of like what you do when they ask. And then just see how you're treated. When are you greeted? How quickly are you greeted? And then talk to like the other guests too. If there are any other guests there, be like, oh, like, what do you do? Like learn, because they will, like you said, they will tell the truth. And it's just,
people love to share their experiences. You just got to get them saying, I this, I that, and they're all over it.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh. So interesting. I love it. That's great.
I was going to say, there is proof in this. I have a friend, and I won't say her name in case she doesn't want me to, but she had made a marked effort to go to every single restaurant in the area with extra bottles of wine for the serving staff, for the bartending staff, and just say, hey, we're here. We just want to get to know you. What are your customers like? What do you guys like? What's your favorite dish on the menu? So that when my customers come in saying, oh, we're going here, what should we get? We can recommend it, stuff like that, and just getting to know them. When we start talking about DTC suffering, it ain't her winery. They're up double digits. They're doing phenomenally well right now, like getting close to almost 100% year-over-year growth. So
that's amazing.
Works. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love to hear examples of it working because I know a lot of our listeners are very, they're very like ROI driven. They're like, well, I don't want to do something if it's not going to work. So that's, so we love a proof
But
of
you
concept
have
here.
to.
Yeah.
You have to try
fail.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, how else are you going to know that something would work if you just tweak it a little bit, if you don't do it to begin with? So that's my thing. Like, you have to be able, as Lindsay Jessup at Domain Serene says, fail hard, fail fast, but you have to fail. You have to do it. Or no, I'm sorry. Oh, she's going to kill me. Fail fast, fail cheap, but use the learnings so you don't fail the next time, is essentially what she's going with. I can't believe I butchered her quote. Oh my God.
The idea here though is fail early and
but you have to do it to learn the lesson.
Don't be afraid. Exactly. Yeah. Don't be. And that was a conversation I had with Ed Fuchek with Tank Garage Winery is that like he was just like, you got to fuck around and find out, like you really do, because otherwise, like how, like you said, like how are you going to learn and how are you going to be able to like make like course correct and make adjustments and all that? You really just have to try, and there's no other way to do it. So yeah, I love it. Although we do still love proof of concept, because that's makes it just a little bit easier for us to swallow. I love it. So on the side of your role as editor for Wine Business Monthly, what trends are you noticing right now in how wine brands are showing up in the market, and what do you think is particularly effective?
Oh, that's a tough question, Heather. This is a really difficult one to answer because some days it feels like none of the brands are showing up well. And it feels like we are doing the same old thing. And other days it feels like there's no innovation and they're not showing up in the market at all or in any way that's different. I see bright spots starting to show up. I see a lot of quick one and done brands working well right now. Tank Garage Winery is a perfect example of that. Every year the label is different, and then that way you are not hamstrung into a variety or a blend or a label or anything like that. And those are remarkably working. I see clarity of flavors working. I see clarity of intention. Right, the wines that are doing well are the ones that have a very clear point of view. Who would have thought that XXL was going to be the breakout star of the last year? Yeah, that's a tough question.
I know. It's a little bit more broad than the conversation that we've been having.
Yeah, and like I'm trying to like think. I see brands like Domaine Carneros revamping everything about their tasting room and about their club experience and their tasting room experience and truly customizing it to the visitor. That's working really well. I see a lot of people shutting down their wine clubs completely and starting over with subscription models.
Yeah.
And they're in the process of doing that. I see novelty sparkling wines doing really well. You know, like it's a, hey, we can do it this year, so we're going to do it for our members kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, blue sparkling wine. I see, like for an example of the brand and the person that I follow a lot recently is Oliver Colvin from WX Brands. And he recently talked about how that company has failed 3 times. Just like everything went wrong, probably could have gone bankrupt, but they reinvented themselves and readjusted it and innovated, and they are still here, and they're still one of the largest producing wineries in the United States. And he's been really just inspiring in like, yeah, shit's bad. We've been through this. While you all were having a great time, our company was in the tank. We've gone through this. You can too. So I know that's not quite answering the question, but I do look to people like him and their failure stories and the successes that have come from it as they learned to adjust. So I can actually send you the recording of he and Carol Reber did a session at the Financial Symposium where he talked about that. And he was just like, I had no idea. But it was really inspiring to see that you can come back from a difficult time.
Yeah.
So not the question you want, not the answer you wanted, but that's the answer you got.
No, I think it's worthwhile to talk about because we are in a difficult time right now. And it is inspiring to see people who are like kind of reborn from the ashes of failure. It's really, we love a good comeback story, right? So, that's I think it's relevant.
I know, and I hate going all doom and gloom. Like we are going to come out of this. We are going to come out of it. We are going to come out of it stronger as long as we make change and as long as we say, you know what, this might fail, but we're going to do it anyway just to see if it works or see if part of it works. There was an article that came out a couple days ago about whether the wine industry should get subsidized by the federal government, like so many of these other ag industries. And I have not read the entire article, but my initial thought was, please no, because those industries have died and only rely on federal subsidies. The wine industry needs to change, like any other industry before it. Once you become a mature market and consumer tastes change, every other industry goes through this. You have to be willing to change to meet it. And if you don't, then you don't deserve to be there. So like all the headlines say doom and gloom, and we're trying at Wine Business Monthly not to promote more doom and gloom headlines. Believe me, we're trying to like at least make it somewhat positive or more realistic rather than scary. But like, we need to realize that this is an opportunity. If we want to be the 20th generation winery like they have in Italy or in France, we have to adapt. So this is our chance, and we can do it without losing a lot of people because we've already lost them. Great. Now we can figure out how to bring new people in.
How do we get them back? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I think that's a really lovely place to sort of pause this conversation. What is one actual thing that listeners can implement today from our conversation?
Go talk to your neighbor. Go ask them what they're seeing. Ask them if they'd be willing to trade benefits for 3 months. I mean, when Cindy told me that, I was just like, oh my God, why haven't we done this before?
Yeah.
Go talk to your neighbor. It costs nothing.
Yeah. I love it. Just to that point, I've really been loving those reciprocal like wine club share partnerships because we've like down here in Santa Barbara County, we've been doing them as well. There's a couple wineries, like I know Carhart Family Winery does it like every month. Bien Nacido has been doing it every single month as well. And that, Foxen's done it kind of like sporadically. And it's been really beneficial. Like they've gained new wine club members because of it. They've gotten a lot of visitors that they probably wouldn't have if they hadn't done these reciprocal like wine club sharing benefits things.
Yeah.
And I know like every February SIP certified, so sustainability in practice, they do a reciprocal February where they basically all the participating wineries who are SIP certified, who have wines that are SIP certified, you can basically get all the wine club benefits across the board. So it's like a group of wineries and it only happens for a month. And so it's like really kind of urgent. It includes some urgency during a historically, February's not our busiest time of year. So it's really nice to like kind of hopefully increase a little bit more traffic with that urgency. And so, yeah, I agree. It's a really, really smart thing. I've been really happy to see it.
I just love the community. And maybe that's my generation. Maybe that's me. But I love seeing people come together and figure something out.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, agreed. I love it. My gosh. Okay. Well, Erin, where can folks connect with you? And is there anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to tell us about?
Well, of course, I need to plug Novel Pairings. We are for now, online wine and book club. We meet once a month to talk about a book that has a unique pairing, as well as a playlist so that you can sit back, read the book, listen to some great music, and drink a great glass of wine and create like a nice little vibe, and then get together and talk about it with other like-minded women. In 2026, I am going to be launching in-person events, and I'm so scared to say this, but I'm very also excited, a reading retreat. I'm going to be a couple weekends where you just get to come, you get to read, do some wine tasting, maybe do some horseback riding, have a little fun, and get to meet others and build your own reading community. So that's at Novel Pairings Club. You can find me mostly on Instagram at Erin A. Kirsch or winebusiness.com. And then I'm also fairly active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn tells me I'm one of the top 5% of members. And I'm like, how? But I love having conversations like this over LinkedIn and just really getting to see more perspectives than I would normally get just being based in Sonoma. As much as I'd love to visit every wine region all the time, I cannot. Tell me what you guys are doing in your wine regions. I'm really excited to see where there's growth happening.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Awesome. I will put all of that information in the show notes. Erin, it's always so much fun to hang out with you and chat with you and have just spend time with you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in January. And hopefully, will you be at Unified as well?
I would be fired if I was not at Unified. So yes, I will be.
Okay, great. I will see you at Unified as well. Yeah, I'm like, I feel like you would be there. But I will also see you there. So that is so exciting. I'm so excited to see you and spend some more time with you as always.
Likewise.
I
Show
am
up to a
also
book club every now and then.
yes, yeah, I know. It's been a busy few months. But yes, yeah, I am also a member of Novel Pairings. It's so much fun. And yeah, I'm so excited. So yeah, I put all that in the show notes. Friends, please rate and review this show. It really helps us get the good word out. If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend. All the things you can find us, of course, wherever you're listening. We are also on YouTube, and I'm looking forward to just all the things. Thanks so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.